Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's a sad day for myself, for this channel, and for everybody who was a part of the Barca movement from him joining the club back in 2020. It's not been the easiest 2 years for me and my man Vasilis, but he has now departed, he's now left the club, and we're going to talk about all of that today, because with one going out, there could be one coming in. But will they truly be good enough to replace the great Vasilis Barkas? That's the question I ask of you. Before we go any further with the video, please make sure to hit like and subscribe on the road to 35,000 subscribers. The support has been class recently, so please keep that up by hitting those buttons. It's also been class on the second channel. We're kind of underway now with getting content out in that second channel. We started the FIFA 22 career mode series over there, so if you're into that sort of thing and you were into that on this channel years ago, then it's back if you missed it on that channel. So you can check that out. Link in the description at the end of this video, all that jazz. But let's talk about my man Barkas. So in the words of the great gig pod, Barkas away. He has left, he's gone, he's joined Utrecht in Holland on a year-long loan deal. And a move that obviously me and myself and everybody else probably that supports Celtic will not be too surprised with. We did expect to see Barkas leave the club in some capacity this summer. In fact, if you watched yesterday's video, we talked about how soon that could be. Little did I expect it to be a couple of hours after making that video. It was last night that Celtic made the announcement he would leave the club, and it kind of puts to bed all those rumours that were spread in the tabloids last week that his contract would be torn up. I'm quite glad his contract hasn't just been torn up and we're letting him go, but one way or another he did have to leave the club, and whether that was through a loan deal or as bad as contract termination, for the best of himself and for the best of Celtic, it was probably only fair and right that we moved him on. But I think Celtic have probably taken the best approach in doing so. They've loaned him out now to get him football that he wasn't going to get at Celtic. I think the manager has made it abundantly clear that above him in the pecking order is both Scott Bain and of course Joe Hart. And realistically, he was never going to get in ahead of Joe Hart anyway, and that was just a scenario for, another reality. So he needed football, he had to do something, and if Celtic want to get anything at all from Vasilis Barkas to make up for the fee that we paid, he's going to have to play football for that. Instead of just rotting away as a reserve keeper at Lennoxtown. So Celtic had to find something. I'm glad that something's worked out. He's returning to his country of birth in the Netherlands. So this could go well for him. I really hope it does. Look, I know we've not seen the best of Vasilis Barkas at Celtic, and I think most people will have it down quite simply as he's not good enough to play anywhere. But this is a guy who done well before coming to Celtic, and I'm certainly sure that he'll be wanting to recapture that form leaving Celtic. So for the best of himself and for the club, hopefully he goes to Utrecht and manages to do something. So we are loaning Barkas over to Utrecht for a year, but his contract at Celtic doesn't expire till the end of the 23-24 campaign, which means upon return to Celtic, he'll still have a year left on his deal. However, Celtic apparently were initially in talks to try and extend that deal a further year, to trigger a year extension on Barkas' contract. The main reason for that being that if he comes back to Celtic after an impressive stint at Utrecht, there's going to be 2 years left on his contract, which means they could maybe, miraculously, get a transfer fee out of it, and a decent enough transfer fee. However, I think that realistically we're going to see him return to Celtic with that year left on his deal, and we're probably going to see him leave for a really low fee if he does go anywhere permanently. In fact, I'm going to say it right now, I would not be stunned if he ends up returning to Celtic and leaving for free anyway, or leaving for on a release or something like that. I still think that is very much a plausible option for both parties if they can't seem to get a transfer fee for him. But if Celtic can maybe extend that year contract and they make it an opportunity and a possibility, then maybe, just maybe, we could make a little bit of money back after spending a lot of money on the player himself. Now, ultimately, that's something that Celtic have a whole year to look over. We can talk to Barkas at any point, and we can obviously talk to him when he returns to the club from Utrecht. So there's no rush to get a deal on the table or to kind of get him out the door either. But if he goes over to Holland and he captures a little bit of his form back, you would imagine that he will be thinking to himself, right, I need to get away, I need to keep this going, the momentum is now elsewhere, it's not at Celtic. And I still think at that point he probably has no chance of getting in over Joe Hart unless he had a howler of a season. So realistically, I think he will leave the club is what I'm saying. Whether it be next summer, the summer after, he's going to be gone, and I do reckon it'll be next year. Which leads us to the main question and the main topic of today's video. Is it potentially the worst transfer in Celtic's history? And I don't mean recent history, I mean entire history. Could this be the worst? For so many different reasons. And listen, I love him, right? I've tried, I've stood by him and I've supported him from day one, and I've wanted things to turn around for him. But when you have to sit down and look at it realistically and you look at the facts, all the sort of statistics, all the figures, everything else sort of points in the one direction. And that is that it could be up there for the worst transfer in Celtic's history. Now, don't get me wrong, and especially in my lifetime, Celtic have had some absolute howlers. We have made some horrendous signings, both permanent signings, loan signings. You know, some things have just not worked out the way they should. And when you put expectation behind a player, that makes it even worse. And the thing with Barca was, with the fee that we paid for him, there was a lot of expectation behind him. It's very rare that a club in Scotland, and never mind Celtic, pays £5 million for a goalkeeper. That is a lot of money. £5 million is more expensive than 95% of the strikers who have ever played in this country. And when you're paying for a striker, you're paying for goals. Now, when you're paying for a keeper, you're at least wanting to pay for saves. We didn't get many of them with Vasilis Barkas. £5 million plus add-ons was the reported fee for Vasilis Barkas, for him to do basically nothing in the space of 2 seasons. He made 14 league appearances for Celtic. 14 league appearances. That's all. In 2 seasons for £5 million. In those league appearances, he made 16 league saves. And credit to my boy Hamill here for putting this statistic on TikTok. But if those 16 saves were to be spread across his transfer fee, Celtic have paid £281,000 per league save from Vasilis Barkas. £281,000 a save. That is ridiculous reading. Tie that statistic in with the transfer fee, and then also throw in the fact that reportedly he's one of the highest earners at Celtic Football Club. You have got a formula there for a disaster. A formula for one of the worst signings in the club's history. He walks straight into the biggest flop 11. You know what I mean? The Celtic's biggest flops. He's the goalkeeper. There's no doubt about that. Now, is he high in the list as the biggest flop of them all? I think there certainly is a conversation to having that. But we paid the money, we paid the price ultimately, come this moment in time now. And there's not much we could do about it. Like, hindsight is a brilliant thing. And, you know, me as a YouTuber, I say things that in hindsight were wrong. And football teams and football clubs are going to make signings that in hindsight, you know, could have went another way. We never seen this coming, and I think this is where I ultimately feel very sympathetic for Vasilis Barkas, because I think that the time he came into the club, the way everything went in that COVID season, the confidence and knock he must have taken, and just everything happening at the club just wasn't good for him. And I think he's probably suffered more than most players in terms of reputation and in terms of actual ability. He's dwindled a lot from what he was like at AEK Athens. But I do feel bad for him, and that's why I always wanted him to turn that round. But simply put, he just was never going to do that at Celtic. I think that the time has come where we've got to be realistic. We've got to sit down and go, right, we've got to do what's in the best interest of the club, and that's to move him on. We can try and get money out of it somehow. Utrecht are reportedly going to pay up to 2/3 of his wages. They can't afford the full thing, but 2/3 of the wages. So it's a bit of money off the wage bill for Celtic as well. We have to consider these factors. I hope it works out for him at Utrecht. I really do. And best case scenario, he goes to Utrecht, he has the season of a lifetime, comes back to Celtic feeling sky high, and he could be another option for us. But I think that his days are over. I think most fans have closed the book on him. They probably want to see the last. They've seen the last they want of him. And yeah, gone as Vasilis Barkas. But as one player departs, then we need to replace them with another, and Celtic are left in the position now where they do only have 2 senior choice keepers. They need a third one. Could they just bring up the likes of Toby Oluwayemi from the B team? Yeah, possibly, but I think Celtic will be looking to improve in the goalkeeping department. So that's where Benjamin Siegrist comes into things. Now, out of all of the Celtic transfer talks I do, and out of all the kind of briefings I try to give on a player, this is the one I probably need to talk about the least. We all know who Benjamin Siegrist is. We all know the qualities he possesses. And I think that we can all be in agreement that he would be a solid backup option for Celtic. I don't think you could find many Celtic fans who would pass up the opportunity to sign Benjamin Siegrist in the current position he finds himself in. He's a free agent. If he's interested to come to the club, if he understands that he would be a backup option at Celtic, I honestly don't see any reason why we or anyone should say no about it. 30 years of age, still has a decent amount of time as a goalkeeper to play. He's had a very good couple of years at Dundee United since they returned to the Premiership. He's made some of the best and biggest saves in the Premiership over the past couple of years. And there's just no risks attached whatsoever. Now, you go out, you sign Benjamin Siegrist on a free contract, okay? He's not attached to any club. His time at Dundee United is over. Sign him on a free contract. You would imagine his wages aren't going to be that high. He's not been getting paid mega bucks at Dundee United. And ultimately, he's coming in to be a backup. There's not a lot of risks attached to the signing of Benjamin Siegrist. And I think if there's an easy route to go down, then it would be him. Now, I know it's not a glamorous signing, and a lot of us might want to hear a big name or hear of an exciting prospect, but right now, the priorities, I think, lie elsewhere in the team. Now, Joe Hart is getting on a bit, and I know we all want to see someone come in and take the reins from him when the time comes, but the time isn't going to come this year. We've got time to look at that area. We've got time to scout in that department. We can look on a little bit further into the future when the time calls upon. Right now, Joe Hart's not losing that place in the first team. But what we do need is someone to sit on the bench behind him, and I think Siegrist fills in there very, very well. Very well. I genuinely think the only negative with Benjamin Siegrist is that, that we're not really forward planning for when Joe Hart drops off and gets a little bit older. But look, if you're talking about the 22-23 campaign in isolation, just that singular campaign, you say he signs Siegrist to a 2 or 3 year deal. Joe Hart gets injured, misses a game or two. Touchwood doesn't happen. But if that does happen, Siegrist is definitely a better option than Bain, definitely a better option than Barca, and probably a better option than most keepers we can get right now to come in and fill that void for a couple of games. So I really don't see a lot of negatives. Former Swiss under-21 international. He knows the league very well. Sounded like Neil Lennon there. But, I just don't see a lot of negatives. So it's very, very low risk. And one that, 52 clean sheets at Dundee United is a very good record for his 154 appearances. Correction, 145 appearances. I read my notes wrong there. Still a decent return, actually. That's a better return. Right, that'll do it for today. Farewell, Barcas. It's been a pleasure. I have been here from the start. I have been the meme from the start when I backed you to be the best keeper in the country. And now I watch you as you go. There goes my hero. Watch him as he goes. Like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time.